Hi, I'm Vienna from Wandering Vienna, and I'm here with another interesting quote on travel. The quote is, "Not all who wander are lost," by J.R.R. Tolkien. I would argue that this might be the most famous travel quote in existence, partly because Tolkien himself is basically a literary celebrity. And if you don't know who he is, he's the guy that wrote the Lord of the Rings series, which is now a series of movies. And partly because the words hit something deep in people who love exploring. For me, this quote feels like someone finally said, hey, wandering's not only allowed, it's kind of the point. To understand this quote, you need to know the definition of wander, which is to travel over without a certain course or destination. A lot of people hear the word wander and immediately picture someone confused, spinning in circles, clutching a map upside down. But wandering doesn't always mean cluelessness. Sometimes it means curiosity, freedom, and sometimes it means just letting a place introduce itself to you instead of forcing it to follow your schedule. My mom and I have done this more times than I can count. We'll arrive in a new city, drop our bags, look at each other, and without even saying it, we know it's wandering time. There's something incredibly freeing about walking through a neighborhood with no plan, no reservations. No, we have to be here by 3:15. Just you, your feet, and whatever the world decides to show you. It's like taking the pressure off travel. You're not trying to accomplish anything. You're just absorbing the colors, the smells, the people, the tiny details that never make it into guidebooks, but somehow became your favorite memories. One of my favorite cities to wander in is Mexico City. That city is a sensory explosion, in the best way. The colors alone feel like someone turned life up on full. And the food carts? Ooh. You can't walk more than a block without passing a stand selling tacos, tortas, or something sizzling on a grill that smells like heaven. Wandering there doesn't feel like just being there. It feels like being immersed. But let's be honest, sometimes people are wandering because they got lost. And you can spot them instantly. They're the ones standing at a corner with the face that says, I swear this looked easier on Google Maps. Or they're spinning their phone around like it's a compass. My mom and I have absolutely been those people. More than once, probably more than 10 times. And if we're being real, it'll most definitely happen again. But here's the thing. Those moments of, where are we? Often turn into the best stories. Wandering is basically travel's way of nudging you and whispering, hey, wanna see something cool? One time in Mexico City, we were trying to go to an economics museum, which sounds kinda nerdy, but in a fun way. When we found the building, we realized all the signs were in Spanish. And even though we're trying to learn Spanish, we were definitely not at read an entire museum level yet. So instead, we wandered into a little cafe next door, and I found one of the best pieces of chocolate cake I've ever tasted in my life. If we hadn't gotten lost or changed our schedule, we never would have found it. The cake alone was worth the detour. All of this is why I admire Tolkien so much. He didn't just write stories, he built entire worlds. He basically invented the modern fantasy genre. His imagination was ridiculous, in the best way possible. And honestly, creativity like that is essential for travel. You have to be flexible, you have to be willing to improvise, you have to be okay with the fact that sometimes your suitcase will be bigger than the staircase you need to drag up. My mom and I learned this the hard way in Prague, where the cobblestones seemed specifically designed to test your emotional strength. We were exhausted, dragging our giant suitcases around that were super heavy. But we figured it out. Creativity, determination, and maybe a bit of stubbornness got us through. We also learned a lesson on how travel backpacks, yes, the big backpacking ones, are much more efficient than suitcases. When you really sit with Tolkien's quote, it becomes more than just a cute, inspirational saying for your wall. It's a reminder that wandering, in travel and in life, is not a waste of time. It's actually one of the best ways to discover things you didn't even know you were looking for. Wandering invites surprises. It invites joy. It invites those tiny magical moments that only happen when you're not rushing. An example of one of those moments was when we were in Rome one afternoon. My mom and I were just strolling around, not trying to get anywhere specific, and then we saw a billboard for a festival happening that week. A food festival in Rome. The universe basically handed us a gift. The festival was called Cold Ready, and it was everything you'd hope a Roman food festival would be. Delicious samples, live music, people laughing. And it felt like we stumbled onto something really special. We never would have found it if we had been following a strict plan. Wandering gave us that moment. There's another way to interpret Tolkien's quote. Sometimes people wander on purpose because they want to get sent adrift. Not physically, but mentally. They want to sink so deep into a place that the rest of the world fades out. It's like when you wander into a bookstore and suddenly you're in the back corner surrounded by stories, and you have no idea how long you've been there. Or when you're on the trail, and the sound of water or wind becomes the only thing you're aware of. Getting lost like that is one of the best feelings in the world. But it doesn't happen if you're constantly trying to control everything. If you're always thinking about the next task, the next assignment, the next responsibility, you never get to feel that delicious sense of drifting. Life isn't meant to be micromanaged, it's meant to be lived. A little messy, a little spontaneous, and a little unpredictable. Wandering teaches you that. It teaches you to trust the moment, to let things unfold. And honestly, wandering doesn't have to happen in faraway cities, on different continents, but you can wander your own neighborhood. You can drift through your thoughts, cruise through a new hobby or a new idea. Wandering is more a mindset than a physical action. It's choosing curiosity over control. So I'll leave you with this. Not all who wander are lost, and not all who are lost need to be found right away. Sometimes getting lost is exactly what you need to understand where you're going next. Thank you for listening, and if you want more stories, thoughts, and adventures from a teenager's point of view, come back to Wandering Vienna, because there's always more to explore. Bye!